Hi there, this is Solitary Ronan from Solitary Ronan Films, and welcome to a random review. Today's random review is The System from 1964, directed by Michael Winner, starring Oliver Reed, David Hemmings, Harry Andrews, Jane Merrow, Barbara Ferris. This is on Indicator, Spine 149. Now this is one of those films, an Indicator, that I kind of bought on the sale a couple of years ago when I was looking to get Indicator complete. And it perhaps wasn't a film that jumped out at me as something that I might be interested in. But as usual with Indicator, you watch the film and it's a little gem. Now Oliver Reed, throughout the Indicator catalogue, there's some directors and actors that feature quite a few times. You know, Jack Nicholson, Richard Fleischer, they kind of run through Indicator quite a bit. So Oliver Reed is in The System. He's also in Triple Echo with Glenda Jackson, which is in my backlog of Indicator. I'm now under 20 titles to watch, and then I've actually watched them all. He's in, early in his career he did a bunch of stuff for Hammer. So he's in The Brigand of Kandahar, which is a lot of fun. He's in The Scarlet Blade. And he's in The Pirates of Blood River. All fun Sunday afternoon kind of films. And that's in the Hammer Volume 5, Death and Deceit, which objectively they're probably not great films, but they are a lot of fun. He's also in The Damned, one of the films Joseph Losey made in the UK. This is a kind of biker film that takes a From Dusk Till Dawn type left-hand turn and becomes something completely different. So he's also in that, which is part of Hammer Volume 4, which is The Faces of Fear. And he's also in Take a Girl Like You with Hayley Mills, a film from 1970 all about virginity, literally, the importance of keeping it or not keeping it. So Oliver Reed has got a bit of exposure in the Indicator series, but let's just focus on The System. This was originally going to star Julie Christie in the lead female role. That kind of fell through. Michael Winner, always the wheeler and dealer. This is 1964, so he was trying to get the Beatles in the film as well. Also in 1964, Richard Lester's Hard Day's Night. I'm not sure which one came out first, but certainly the opening of the film reminds you some of that Richard Lester energy. It's a simple tale of a group of men, young men. Oliver Reed's character, Tinker, is 23. Oliver Reed was 26 when he made this. David Hemmings, for example, looks really young. Obviously, he'd been a child star before becoming a film star, but he wasn't a film star quite at this stage. And they live in this small seaside town, and during the summer, they pretty much are on the hunt for women, pretty much to have sex with and then forget about, and make their money and have their fun in the summer, and then spend the winter essentially almost hibernating. They each have an area of the seaside town that they kind of stalk, and they all swap details of women and addresses, and they all take turns. The system is, somebody gets first choice and then second choice of which woman to go after. Again, it's the kind of thing that sounds fairly predatory, and I guess is, and they probably just wouldn't make it now. But there's some more interesting things going on in it than you might think at first. Probably the first interesting thing is it was shot by Nic Roeg. It's black and white and it looks really good. And there's a couple of extras which I'll get to where at least two people talk about how Michael Winner would constantly go to Nic Roeg for advice and what do you think, how we should shoot this and what's that. So Nicholas Roeg certainly had a big input into obviously what the film looked like because it was a DP, but how it was kind of shot as well. You know, there's some night scenes that are just shot really beautifully, and it's a really nice print by Indicator as well. So it has that element to it. Obviously, all these films in Britain in the 60s and the 70s that were about sex and liberation of sex, they were also about class. And we have, you know, at the start, you know, David Hemmings is kind of new to the group, so Oliver Reed gives him the background and also gives the audience the kind of exposition of how, you know, once a year the working class people come to the seaside, you know, to go back to the sea from whence they came originally millions of years ago. And Oliver Reed and his crew feel superior to them, and again there's talk of there's only two types of people in the world, takers and those that are taken, and they feel very superior to that. And then into this mix comes Jane Merrow, who is a model who's down to look after her father's house for the week, and she also has rich friends including Derek Nimmo, who might only ring a bell with certain people. He plays one of Jane Merrow's posh friends, which is quite hilarious, and obviously they look down on Oliver Reed, who earns his crust by taking photographs of women and then getting their dresses, and then that feeds into the system, and then essentially hibernating during the winter. So you've got these rich friends who look down on Oliver Reed and his friends, and then his friends look down on the working class people who actually come to the seaside town for the summer. You have Harry Andrews as Oliver Reed's boss, who obviously looks down on him as well. You have the women that Oliver Reed obviously has affairs with and are known as kind of winter women, including the wife of the local comic. And there's wonderful scenes between Oliver Reed and her. Again, Oliver Reed usually just goes to her in the winter when all the summer women have gone. He has a kind of long-term girlfriend, but not really, obviously, and she has wonderful scenes as well when she talks about the takers and the taken. John Anderton is one of their crew, but a girl that he was seeing is now pregnant, so he ends up marrying her in one of the great scenes at night where they're burning effigies of the bride and the groom. And of course, the concept of marriage is completely, you know, alien to Oliver Reed and his gang, and that's not what they're in it for, you know. And as usual, they're like, oh yeah, we will never do that, even though you know full well that they will, and they'll just become the establishment, and then they'll end up going to their own seaside town of their own. So again, at the start of the film, you're going, well, this is quite predatory, this is kind of one of those time capsule films, but then it does kind of change. It has a wonderful melancholy to it. You know, there's an abandoned village up the coast a little bit, where Oliver Reed takes Jane Merrow. And again, there's a wonderful sense of passing of generations and kind of lost morals and kind of a lost way of life. And there is a wonderful melancholy that runs through the film. Oliver Reed is fantastic as always. You kind of forget, because when I was growing up, the memory of Oliver Reed was him being drunk on talk shows, and of course back in those days we used to laugh at things like that, whereas looking at them now they're actually really difficult to watch because there's also a guy who's got a problem. But you do kind of forget how good and how magnetic Oliver Reed actually was as an actor, even if he had a huge self-destructive streak. Again, the stuff in the extras that's both hilarious and terrifying. And then obviously, as you'd expect, Oliver Reed is the one that perhaps develops feelings for Jane Merrow, and then of course her reason for being there and her attitude to being there is a nice kind of balance to the start of the film. So overall, again, it's another indicator release in all sense of what that means, as far as it's a film that you're like, oh, am I really going to be interested in this? And then you realise it's actually a little gem. The extras, again, indicator are really good. There's an audio commentary with film historians Thurza Wakefield and Melanie Williams from 2019. There's an 18-minute interview with Jane Merrow, and again she tells some hair-raising stories of the drinking games, and at one point Oliver Reed had David Hemmings hanging by his wrists from a second floor hotel window. And she also talks about, there's a scene where Oliver Reed slaps her and Michael Winner wanted him to really slap her, which the crew was not happy about. So the first time he did it, he pulled his punch, and Michael Winner still wanted him to actually hit her, which he did, which he wasn't happy about. And the crew not got Michael Winner back, but pranked him with something or other, but the crew was kind of not very happy with that. Obviously neither was Jane Merrow. Again, another thing that they just wouldn't get away with nowadays. And then we have quite a disturbing little 6-minute chat called Drinking and Dancing with actor John Porter Davison, who plays one of Oliver Reed's crew, and again he talks about the drinking games they used to have. And I mean, obviously in the 60s and 70s, alcohol on film sets was just, everybody drank and that was just the culture. But he says they used to have like 14 lagers and then they would start to drink. They used to have drinking games, and he tells of one drinking game where the winner won with 26 rum and cokes, which is kind of disturbing. And then there's another 4-minute piece called Fun and Games with actor Jeremy Burnham, who was pretty much hired because there's a scene where the rich friends of Nicola, Jane Morrow's character, challenge Oliver Reed to a game of tennis. So Jeremy Burnham, the actor's pretty good at tennis and was able to get the balls exactly where Michael Winner wanted them. So if you want to see Oliver Reed playing tennis, then you need to watch The System. And then we have a rather bizarre short film that Michael Winner did called Haunted England from 1961, which is 24 minutes, and it's about visiting castles, and it's done as a documentary or a mockumentary. about haunted castles in England and Wales, which is a lot of fun. And again, it's a limited edition, you get a nice booklet. So all in all, another, I mean, I am repeating myself, but it's another classic indicator title, as far as a film that originally I was like, yeah, it's taken me a long time to get around to watching, but then you watch it and there's a lot of interesting little things in there, but especially the fact it's shot by Nic Roeg and it looks really nice. The black and white photography is really good. Again, it's not necessarily Michael Winner going new wave, and it does have some of that Richard Lester energy at the start, at least. So even though the subject matter might seem like, oh, here we go again, a bunch of guys trying to have sex with women, there is some other stuff going on and some more interesting stuff underneath the surface, and again it has a wonderful melancholy to it, and the feeling of characters that are trapped in the seaside, which is a nice little touch. So thanks so much for watching this fairly random review. Please let me know if you've seen The System by Michael Winner. Not a filmmaker we discuss that much on this channel. And hopefully join me again for more random reviews. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, saying farewell.